Greetings, Tom Earl here. Just wanted to add a quick note before we jump into this week's episode. Unfortunately, only the audio is available for this episode. Because the interview was done remotely, there was some freezing on our screens. There was some lag time with the internet, and so we were only able to use the audio. However, it is still absolutely amazing. You may notice sometimes we interrupt each other or we speak over each other. Once again, that was just because of the lag time, not from any rudeness on either person's part. So I know you will enjoy this gem and resource. And so without further ado, here we go. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the celebration. It is an honor, a pleasure, and a joy to have you here with us today. We know you could be anywhere, so the fact that you are here means the absolute world to us. As you can see, or hear, or sense, or feel, I have an amazing guest. They go by the name of Kezia. How's it going?
Hi, Tom. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my goodness. It's my absolute pleasure. We've been having this one in the works for about 3 months now.
Right. Blame the hurricanes.
I do. What's a little bit about yourself? Can you share with the folks listening?
All right, sure. I live in South Florida, so that's what we were referring to when we said the hurricanes. I've lived here for a few years now, even though I grew up in Central Florida. I currently work in a school district in South Florida where I exclusively work with LGBTQ students, staff, and family members. I make sure that they are supported, that they feel safe, that they feel comfortable, that their needs are met, that their rights are listened to and are adhered to. In my personal time, I do a lot of activism around Black Lives Matter, around gender equality, LGBTQ work, the overlap and intersection between LGBTQ work and racial justice, as well as all other forms of justice. I do believe that we don't live single issue lives, as one of my favorite writers says. So I'm all about making sure that whenever I do work, I'm being conscious of my privileges as well as the systems that oppress me, and making sure that I lift everyone up and not just the things that directly impact myself.
That's powerful.
That's great.
Yes. What was that you said? Your favorite author said what?
We do not live single issue lives. And therefore, when we fight for injustice, we have to fight for all of those issues.
That's deep. Who said that?
Octavia Butler.
Oh, Octavia Butler.
Or was it Audre Lorde? They're both my favorite. One of them.
Octavia Butler, is that fiction?
That's fiction.
What you like about her?
Having kind of Afrofuturism, sci-fi is so exciting. So exciting. And I always appreciated her, but she's my wife's favorite author. So that made me appreciate her even more. Something about when my wife likes things, it makes things have new breath for me. So it's something I appreciate about her.
That's awesome. Talk to me a little bit about how you got into poetry.
Oh, how did I get into poetry? When I was in high school, I was kind of writing myself out of a hole, going through a lot of things, being closeted. I had deaths of friends, dealing with depression. Someone named Wally B, who I know was on your show before, had a poetry show in Florida for teenagers. So I would go first and listen. I finally got the courage to finally perform. And when I went to FAMU for college, Wally B introduced me to some of his poetic mentors from where he got started in Black on Black Rhyme Tallahassee. So I got involved with Black on Black Rhyme, listen, perform. I realized I like listening even more than I like performing, even though I do like performing. And it just became something that was a part of my life. We started a poetry club at FAMU, a few of my friends, and it's still there now, which is amazing. We graduated some years ago, so it's 7 or 8 years later, and the organization is still holding strong. So it's in my blood. It's my friends. It's my family. It's something that I enjoy. It's a release, and it's also something that builds me up.
That's a legacy that it's still there. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think you're probably the 4th or 5th guest. We've also had Wally, but we've had so many people a part of Heard 'Em Say that have featured on here. So that's crazy. I didn't even know the Wally B connection.
Yep. Always.
And I know folks have heard lots about, did you also go to Anytown?
I did also go to Anytown, loved Anytown. I think I first went when I was 15, returned again when I was a counselor when I was 18. And it's one of the best experiences of my life. And it's really what pushed me into activism.
That's amazing. And that's where we met.
Yes, that is where we met, Community Tampa Bay, absolutely.
We almost worked together. We were almost coworkers.
Almost. I had to decide between that or teaching. They both kind of called me. And I really did a lot of Anytown-esque things while I taught, so.
That's awesome. Well, we gave folks a little hinting of it, but can we satisfy their curiosity by sharing one of your poems?
Sure. I'm going to share an old poem, so hope that's okay.
Of course.
If poems don't have timelines, as one of my friends says. All right. This is a love poem, kind of when I was figuring out love, religion, spirituality, queerness, all of those things when I was around 18 years old. It's called Inshallah. All right. How can I promise you forever when I can't even promise the rest of the day? All I know is we started this journey together, so hopefully we can make it the rest of the way. Inshallah, God willing. And God must be willing, because I swear it feels like God predetermined number 2 for just me and you. Like way before Noah put the animals on the ark, God placed a piece of us in each other's pre-mature heart. Destiny beyond comprehension. I carry your grace in my spirit and your wisdom in my intuition. You're like Asian mantras I wear about my wrist to remind me to keep God close, so let me hold you. Because I feel my being grow stronger when I see you. Allow me to love God through you. And the Bible says we speak life and death with our tongues. So please believe me when I say your voice gives me life. Like I'm even in love with the way your lips part when you speak my name. I hold your happiness amongst my needs for survival. So I work to keep that smile on your face as if my salvation depended upon it. So I get mad when the sunrise interrupts those long nights of deep conversations. How dare the world? I mean, how could the world continue when we're together? If all the inhabitants of earth were in a room, I could pick you out with my eyes closed, heart open. And our hearts speak a language that our ears can't understand, but our souls do. And I love how our most intimate moments are shared with our clothes on, but our love exposed. So I'll open up my heart to you, allowing you this chance to destroy me, but trusting you not to, because you get me. You think all my scars are beauty marks, and you never say I'm too sensitive. You say you love my compassion. You understand that there just is no understanding me, so my love for you is ocean deep. And if you held a seashell to your ear, you would hear your and my heart. I could knock you down with the weight of my eyes falling on you, unable to comprehend how such beauty can exist before me, like my love for vinyl albums. And that constant crackling when the music stops, I need that consistency to caress my soul, because I know you have no trouble looking past all the accidental wrongs, and you sink your teeth into all those incidental rights. The essence of time exists in the timelessness of your presence. Because we got so much chemistry, we make biology jealous. You promise to catch me when I look into your eyes and fall apart. So let me just lay down in your pupils. The peace I find there can rival any paradise. I'm wishing on stars, imagining our silhouettes taking dips in the Little Dipper, drenched in your love, soaked to the spine, smiling so big you can see it from behind. As the sun bows before the presence of the moon, my pride bows before my love for you. You inspire me, got me doing things I haven't done since I was 2 or 3. So our emotions sing in perfect harmony, even when the words don't rhyme. Falling in love with you was like someone gave me these glasses, and now I see the world anew with all the beauty and color that it's supposed to be, but I don't even need them because you're all I need to see. Like if you were to peel back the layers of my smile, I swear you would find yours at the foundation. And you smell like Japanese cherry blossoms. Konnichiwa. And you feel like familiar, and I fear the unknown. So when we met, it felt more like that missing piece of myself had finally come home. What is this love? With no words to define, yet with the longest definition, embarrasses my vocabulary and throws my Leo into submission. How is it I feel this way when you touch me? Like my skin is made of butterflies, indescribable. And I thank God or whoever for bringing you in my life, but curse her for waiting so long. Don't you know this is what I needed all along?
Yay! That was awesome.
Thank you.
So many lines that I just resonated with. I love this one, eyes. If my eyes were closed, I could pick you out of a room, something like that.
Well, this poem is about a few different people, which I guess is a controversial statement to make. But I felt this draw, right? And it's not something tangible. It's not something I could describe. It's not something I could explain or express. I just felt this draw toward this one particular person. And I just felt like no matter what was going on, this person could call me, this person could call me in, and it was just there. And so that was me trying to put words behind that feeling.
I feel like you did a great job of it, and you did a great job explaining it right now.
Thank
That was
you.
awesome. Open my heart to you. You talked about opening my heart to you. How do you open your heart to somebody? What does that look like?
That almost sounds like one of those "what is the meaning of life"-esque questions. But opening my heart at that point, and still sometimes at this point, is vulnerability, which is something that me as an empathic person, which is probably why another reason why I love Octavia Butler, and her describing Lauren in Parable of the Sower as this empathic person, and being told I'm too sensitive my entire life and absorbing pain and absorbing sadness, always being sad. In order to open my heart up, I had to expose those things, which was sometimes embarrassing, sometimes painful, sometimes uncomfortable. But I did it because I love you and you're not going to hurt me, or at least purposefully hurt me. So that was what that looked like.
Mm. And you mentioned the other line I loved, you love my compassion. You say I'm compassionate, not sensitive, or something like that.
Yeah. It's important to me.
Can you expand?
For many years as a child, I was always told, particularly by my parents, but kids at school, teachers, almost everyone, that I was just too sensitive. And it wasn't until later on in life that I find someone that I was in love with that was also in love with me, who said, "You're not too sensitive. You're just right. You're perfect. You're just passionate. You're just compassionate. You just care that much. And there's nothing wrong with you." So I spent many years thinking something was wrong with me because I felt so deeply, right? I see something on the news and ruin my entire day. So I'm suffering of somewhere, some person that I've never met in my life, especially people that I really did know and love. So it took a long time for me to realize that that's the way I'm supposed to be. And there's nothing wrong with that. That makes me special. That doesn't make me weird or bad.
So my understanding, from what you shared with us, is now you work with young people. Why do you think people, adults in particular, and peers, why do we put that pressure on people? Why do we have this gauge of what's sensitive and what's not, and what's too sensitive? Where do you think that comes from?
Well, I guess it depends on the person, certainly. So I'll start with my parents. It took me a long time to realize that I think my parents said that because they were afraid for me, not necessarily because they thought something was wrong with me. So my parents were afraid that because the world is not a pretty place, me being sad or hurt or absorbing the hurt and pain of the world would hinder my success, or stop me from reaching my dreams, or stopping me from wanting to reach my dreams. Because if something happened that just made me too sad, I would be frozen. So for them, I think they just wanted me to be more resilient. I think for other people in the world, it's just weird. We don't like to see people cry. We don't like to see people hurt. We don't know what to do. It's awkward. So we're just kind of like, buck up, toughen up. We don't have time for that. And we live in a fast-paced world, especially in American society, with our emphasis on productivity. And none of that really takes into account the human being.
I appreciate that. What can you tell us a little bit about the work that you do? What does your day-to-day look like, or week to week, or anything like that you can give us some details?
Oh, man. My work. All right. So as I said, I'm employed by the school district in South Florida. And literally anything and everything LGBTQ related for students, staff, and families, I'm the person that they call. Most of what I do is trainings, right? I like to be preventative and proactive, not just reactive. So I'll go to schools and I'll train the entire staff on LGBTQ student sensitivity, etiquette, things you should and should not say, should and should not ask, what to look for if a student is suffering, who to call when a student is experiencing something, how to support students, things that are not okay to say that we sometimes think is okay to say because there's so much misinformation put out there about LGBTQ people and trans people. I do what are called trans accommodations meetings. So if there is a student who is transitioning, there's always a student who's transitioning. We have 236 schools in my school district, and I'm the only person who works with LGBTQ kids. Yeah. So I'll go to a school, meet with the students and or parents. We'll figure out what accommodations that they need as far as bathrooms or locker rooms. If their teachers are not using the correct name or pronoun, moving through that, making sure that they're emotionally healthy, safe, and supported. If they need counseling services, if they need tutoring services, anything that they would need in school to be successful. I go to the schools and ensure that their needs are met, and communicate that then with the administration at the school, the parents and or the staff at the school, the teachers of that student, so that the burden is taken off of the student to have to voice their needs. I also plan events for parents of LGBTQ kids, staff members. I help develop curriculum that is LGBTQ sensitive, all those things. A lot more. It's a lot. Suffice to say.
Yeah, you have to do it all yourself. That's a challenge.
Absolutely.
You're in Florida, you're in the South, you're in a red state. I think a lot of folks might even be surprised that your position exists that's funded by the state.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the climate. Do you find that teachers are willing to put their biases aside to, support their students, or, talk to me about your experience with working with the teachers and parents and stuff.
As far as climate, I'll put it this way. So I'm not paid for by the state. I'm paid for by my school district.
Okay.
I'm the only person in the state of Florida with this position as
Wow.
a full-time position. So we have 67 school districts in the state of Florida, and my school district is the only one that pays full-time for someone to have my position. It is, I'll put it this way. After my trainings, there is always at least half a dozen to a dozen people who stay after my training and say, thank you so much. This is wonderful information. I'm so glad I've done this. I'm going to take the suggestions that you said and make sure that I do what I have to do to make sure that I ensure I have a safe environment. I don't think I have ever, and I've done at least 60 to 70 different trainings. I don't think I've ever had someone say, this is ridiculous. I'm so angry. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm sure they feel that way. But I think that I've created a space where I can say it's not okay to say that. And that's good enough for me, and I say in my trainings, I don't have to change your personal beliefs. You just have to start and stop saying certain things to ensure that all students feel safe while they're in your classroom. So the climate in that way, I think we've at least gotten there. I do work sensitivity into my training. I can't just do the policy and procedures. There has to be sensitivity. I have at least once a month, I'll have someone from a different school district or someone even nationally. I've had people from different states call me and say, how on earth do you do this? How on earth did you get this to your school district? And they ask this ridiculous, terrible question. And that question is, was there pushback? And of course, the answer is, of course, there was pushback. Of course, there were parents threatening to burn down the school district and have all these homophobic hypotheticals and transphobic hypotheticals. We just did it anyway. We just passed the policy. And once these parents saw that nothing ridiculous was going to happen, they go on about their lives. It's that simple. You just have to do it while there's fire. A lot of people don't want to pass these policies until it's okay with everyone, and that's never going to exist. So you kind of just have to do it.
That's powerful. I out here in LA, I was a part of an initiative where we trained 3,000 teachers a year in anti-bias and inclusive classrooms. And I found when we'd have LGBTQ groups come in that a lot of the teachers, their biases didn't really come up when talking about people who are LGBTQ except for trans. When we talk about trans people, that's when a lot of teachers' biases would come out. Have you found anything similar or?
Yeah, absolutely. Most of my work. So as I said, I do K-12 work, LGBTQ students, staff, and families. And I would say 70 to 80% of my work is specifically with transgender kids in elementary schools. That's not to say that there are more transgender kids in elementary schools than there are middle schools and high schools. It's just that I'm helping transgender kids transition and helping the school adjust and helping the families adjust in elementary school, where they wouldn't need the same type of support in middle school or high school. So I do see the pushback. If I were to lay it out by grade level, in elementary school, they seem to be okay. the teachers I'm referring to, seem to be more okay with trans kids. They're always going to have some pushback, some things that make them uncomfortable, particularly around restrooms. Middle schools are usually the worst. Middle school teachers they cannot get with the bathroom issue. They cannot get with the locker room issue. None of that. All of that bothers them. In high school, they seem to be pretty okay too. And I'm sure we can imagine why that is. You know, kids in middle school are very rambunctious. The hormones are pumping. 12 is just a difficult year physiologically. You know, I can understand that even without a trans child, cisgender children are extremely inappropriate, sexually inappropriate, all those things. So they consider this an invitation to more sexual inappropriateness. So I have to do a lot more convincing that this is not going to complicate your life when I do trainings for middle school teachers. So that's generally what it is. Just this idea that this has anything to do with sex. This has anything to do with assault. Unfortunately, there's still that idea that inviting someone into a bathroom that makes them comfortable is somehow going to make other kids uncomfortable, which is never the case. Every single training I've ever done, there's at least one person who says, well, what about the rights and comfortability of the other kids in the bathroom? The kids never have a problem. The adults always have a problem. The kids, I've never had a kid complain about having to use the bathroom in the same bathroom with a transgender kid. It's just the adults that care, and them thinking that these kids are going to care. And I have to convince them, you didn't grow up in the same life. These kids grow up and they see Michael Sams and they see Caitlyn Jenner as just people. We see them as progress. To them, this is all they've ever known. You know, kids who are in middle school right now and high school right now, all they've ever known is a Black president. You know, if you're 13 years old, you know, your consciousness comes when you're 4 or 5 years old. So literally all you've ever known is a Black president. They don't see that as progress. They see that as normal. And it's the same thing with transgender issues, you know. So it's not the kids we have to worry about. It's generally the adults.
That was a great line. They see them as people, not progress.
Yeah.
That's deep. Do you use that often?
I don't.
You should. That was awesome. What are some things that you share that create those breakthroughs? You say I try to convince them. Have you found that there's anything in particular around any of these issues that have led to quicker breakthroughs?
Videos. There's a video that I show from Jazz Jennings. She's a famous transgender child. I think she's about 16 years old. She has her own international television show on TLC. She has she has a short 2-minute video that I incorporate into my trainings. And that helps some of the adults when they can see a trans child speaking for themselves, which I think is powerful. There's another video that I use of a bunch of different trans children from ages 12 to 19, talking to their future self, talking to themselves in 10 years.
Wow.
Very short video. And what's impactful about that is every single one of these children, none of them say what they want to be when they grow up, like, you know, cisgendered children generally do. What they usually say is, I can't wait for your father to come around. I can't wait for you to love yourself. I can't wait for you to see yourself the way other people see you. Those are the things they were saying. They had to wait 10 years to get to that point.
Wow.
So when I show teachers that, they're like, oh, I guess these aren't sexual predators. You know, that literally that's what happens. That's where they get to. They say, oh, okay, these are normal people that just want to be happy one day. And that's impactful. Those are two of the most. And I guess the third video that I use is I generally show it to elementary schools, is the parents of transgender children saying words of affirmation to their transgender elementary school age children. They're just saying, you know, you're beautiful, you're powerful, you are a boy, you are who you wanted to be. And I find that to be extremely impactful for elementary school teachers in particular.
That's amazing. Are any of those videos on YouTube?
Almost all of them. I think all of them are on YouTube, actually.
Oh, okay, wonderful. So what we'll do, folks, is we'll have them in the show notes so you can check those out, because I know folks will want to use those as a resource. How has doing the work you've been doing changed the way you do the work?
Ooh. Here's Tom again with these questions. How has it changed the way I do the work? I will say, not to be a downer, during my first year in this position, this was only my second year. During my first year in this position, I was going to visit an LGBTQ club. I do a lot of work with LGBTQ clubs, helping them get off the ground, giving them resources, making sure that they are just functioning in a way that promotes student leadership and not just adult leadership. And because of a hurricane last year, again, South Florida, the GSA meeting, the LGBTQ club meeting was canceled. And the next day, one of the students in the LGBTQ club committed suicide.
Oh my gosh.
And it just reminded me of the urgency of my work.
Mm.
And that really changed the way I do my work. I'm kind of a non-confrontational person. As I said, I'm an empath. And so I tend to run away from confrontations. And now it has really inspired me to get in people's faces and just say, no, this has to be this way. I really don't care about your feelings. I don't care about your personal reservations or your religion, because there is such thing as separation between church and state. You need to understand that this is a life or death situation that we're talking about. When the suicide rate among transgender youth is upward of 40% before their 21st birthday, right? When we have those type of statistics that we're running against, the time is just too short for us to, worry about you being upset about what parents will say, because parent complaints will never take precedence over a child's livelihood. So that really definitely spurred me to be urgent, to take myself more seriously. I'm a humble person, and people tell me frequently that you're really good at what you do and you really have the ability to change people's hearts and people's minds. But until I could see teachers and administrators changing to help students and see that impact and the impact that it had on students, that just really made me take myself more seriously, hunker down, but also make sure that I'm taking care of myself. Because as I'm sure you can imagine, most people don't call me for good reasons, right? It's never, this LGBTQ kid just got straight A's, it's because of some terrible situations generally. So making sure that I'm taking care of myself so that I can be good at my job and continue being good at my job. Yeah, that's really what it is.
How do you take care of yourself?
I have a few rules for myself. One of them is that I leave work on time, right? That's a really big self-care rule. I work 8:30 to 3:30. I have to make sure I leave at 3:30, no matter what's going on. Another thing that I make sure that I do is I call my wife every day at 12 o'clock at lunch. I pack a good lunch. So I'm literally looking forward to my lunch all day. It's great. I'm vegan, so it's even more exciting to have a healthy lunch. Woo! Yes, exactly. Another thing that I do is I make sure that I'm drinking a certain number of water bottles all day. If I have more than 3 schools that I have to visit a day, I don't go back into my office. It's just too much driving and too much craziness, and it gets me overwhelmed. It's a rule that I realized I had to make. There are a few other things, but those are the main big ones that if I don't follow those, my life starts to unravel very quickly.
Did you sit down and write them down, or did you just, okay?
I had to write them down, and sometimes I have to revisit them because just Thursday I was at work until 6 o'clock.
How do you balance that sense of personal responsibility and urgency? And like you said, we missed one meeting, and maybe one meeting could have changed the life of that person, with I need to take care of myself and make sure that I leave at 3:30. How do you balance that?
If I have to miss one meeting to take care of myself, I've missed one meeting. If I push myself to make that one meeting and I have some type of emotional break where I can't work for a week, then that's much more impactful. And I just have to remember that. You're only one person, you can only do one thing. And I've seen myself get sloppy in my work when I get overwhelmed, either emotionally or physically. So just knowing that and seeing what happens when I don't take care of myself, when I stray too far from my self-care plan, I know the benefits. So I just talk myself down from that. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to take a mental health day, unless and those are things that are especially for adults. If it's something where I have to go meet a child or talk to a child, I hardly ever cancel those. I'll cancel on adults long before I ever cancel on a child.
I hope folks are listening, because I think all of us who are trying to make the world a better place and who have work that changes and often is an intervention in saving a life, that feeling of the more I do, I got to do more, I got to do more, I got to do more. Like you're saying, having that long game vision, that holistic vision of burning myself out ain't going to help.
Right.
I would like to ask a clarifying question. Because I know you're really into dialogue and you're saying you're an empath. Talk to me a little bit about then what it looks like to get into people's faces where you said that, just so we can have some clarification. Because I think people have a certain image when they hear people say that. So I'd like to know in your work, because I can't imagine that it's you going up to a principal and be like, you know what I mean? So functionally, what does that look like so people can have an example?
Never yelling. I definitely don't yell. I
Okay.
find that to be helpful and is not in my nature. Even when I was a teacher, I never yelled at my students. It's just not something that I do, and I don't think that yields positive results. But just revisiting, following up, not caring if I'm filling up your email box or I'm filling up your voicemail. I'm going to be, and if you stop answering, I'm going to show up very respectfully. You seem to be busy. So here I am. Hi, how are you? We really need to schedule this training. This student said this student is experiencing this. They're not making it up. Their parents have this concern. Let's schedule this meeting. Let's schedule this training. Let's make sure we do this. But I always bring it back to the need. You don't want to have a student who hurts themselves on your watch. You don't want to have a student who transfers because your school is that unbearable. They know that I'm in the ears of very powerful people in the district. And not that I would ever spread a lie or a rumor, but word gets out, that this child felt so unsafe that they didn't want to go to your school anymore. So I level in different ways. I level in ways that says, this does look bad for you professionally if that's what they need to hear. I level in ways that really pulls at their heartstrings. This student says that they don't want to go to school anymore. They're considering dropping out. And usually educators hate to hear those types of things, especially when it's preventable. When we can do something as simple as scheduling a couple of trainings and we can prevent that from happening, right? And other times leveling looks like going over their head. I tried to talk to you a few times and I hate to go over people's heads, but if I try to talk to you, and my magic number is 2, not 3. If I try to talk to you 2 times and I'm not getting the results that I need to go over your head. Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you clarifying, because I think it's really important for people to hear that there's different ways to, like, quote unquote, get in people's face.
Yeah, absolutely. Never in a disrespectful or angry manner.
Especially when a lot of us are learning our activism online, where there's things you can do or behaviors we can do online that don't translate to change work in person. So I always like to hear, because what I'm hearing is trying to find what will eventually motivate you to change. Is it an emotional thing? Is it getting fired? Is it your boss telling you to? What will get you to treat people with respect? So I appreciate you giving us specifics. Thank you.
And I do some homework sometimes. I'll find their colleagues, other principals who know that principal or whomever it is, and find out, what is this person like? What would make them really listen to this and understand me? So that helps as well. That I don't even have to fish around for what would work. I would know exactly what would work.
That's so deep. You're dropping gems. I mean, really, that's what I found too in change work, that it happens through a relationship of figuring out what motivates this person. Some people call it reverse engineering, figuring it out, So I appreciate that.
Right.
Before we jump into your next poem, do you have any success stories or any things you think about that remind you of, okay, this is why I do this? Do you have anything like that you lean back on without breaking anybody's confidentiality?
Absolutely. When I have, kids who are 6 years old who correct people when they misgender them, wow. That really reminds me, because I don't frequently correct people when they misgender me, when they don't use they, them, theirs. And some of that is just me being tired of doing it all the time, not necessarily because I don't believe in myself or because I'm afraid to. But that just reminds me I have to, because those kids don't deserve to be, the burden is not on those kids to do that. There's a little genderqueer, I want to say 15-year-old, 16-year-old, who was wearing a bow tie to school. And I told them, I really love your bow tie. It's so cute. And they told their mom, and they bought me a tie and the same matching bow tie, and then another tie on top of that. And then they gave me a frame of the pronoun they, and it's kind of bursting out of the words she, her, and he, him. And it's hard to describe, but it's this graphic, like they rising above he, him, and she, her. And I keep it on my desk. I framed it and keep it on my desk. And it just reminds me that these kids are out there and they need an advocate, and they need someone to really be there for them. They need someone who is like them. So, yeah. Those things do it for me.
That one gets me really emotional too, because it was literally from a compliment, like an affirmation. I appreciate that. And the impact that had on that person's life.
Yeah.
It was like, guess what, mom? You know what I mean? How cool is that?
Yeah.
So is there anything you'd like to invite folks to consider or adapt or think about? Is there anything like that around this conversation we're having?
I would say remember the non-binary experience. And I'm not just saying that for me, but when we leave room for the non-binary experience, that emphasizes removing gender stereotypes for cisgender children and people as well. I always say in my presentations, a lot of people have this idea that I do all this work for LGBTQ people and adults, but in reality, I'm doing this training for the cisgender heterosexual world. You all are the ones that make the lives difficult for these LGBTQ students, and it makes your life difficult too. These standards, these impossible standards and stereotypes that you hold yourselves to as cisgender heterosexual people, that hurt and harms you as well, right? So the CDC has even released some findings that children, males who do homophobic teasing and bullying in middle school and high school are more likely to be sexual predators, are more likely to abuse their wives later on in life, right? There's a direct correlation between that behavior and toxic masculinity and how that hurts everyone, and the hierarchy of gender and how that hurts and harms everyone, the way we elevate this patriarchy and elevate this masculinity, and how that is harmful to literally everyone, including men, including cisgender men, including transgender men, including transgender women and women. It's all connected. It's all interconnected. So leaving room for people who may not be binary and considering that there's another way to this. There's another way to approaching gender, to considering the impact of gender, I think is very freeing, liberating for all of us.
Thank you for that. And just for the folks who are wondering, what do you mean by binary, non-binary? What is that?
Sure. So binary meaning a system of two. In the United States and a lot of places in the world, I won't just say in the United States, we operate on a two-gender system. That's where that binary comes from, bi, and that's male or female or woman or man. Non-binary means you are outside of just male or just female. So non-binary is an umbrella term meaning someone who is not wholly male, not wholly female. That could be someone who is agender, meaning they don't have a gender at all. That could be someone who is bigender. They identify as both genders simultaneously. That could be someone who's gender fluid. That can be someone who's gender queer. And that gender queer can mean a lot of things. Just means their gender is a little bit different than just male or female. Just a lot of different things outside just wholly male and wholly female. So that's what non-binary means. And binary means you are male or you are female, whether you're a transgender male or transgender female or cisgender male or cisgender female.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing and clarifying for us.
No problem.
Well, shall we share with folks your last poem?
Sure. It's a little bit shorter than the first one.
Okay.
All right. This one is called Adelante. Adelante. I love you as a promise, so I keep it a secret. I wrote it down and hid it in my tear duct. I let you touch my scars. You drew it out of me and gave it a home. My fears, my tears, you touched me and my hurt, so deeply yet tenderly. Now I lie here, in your word, until my fears disrupt our still. I perch myself atop your spine, my wounds wet you, soaking you to the spirit. You still look beautiful, even while wearing my blood. Adelante. I walk through your walls like I gave you permission to erect them. Go with me. I can't. Go without me. I won't. I want you to hurt me like I hurt you. Forward. That's it.
Yay! What was that poem for you?
That poem was so adelante meaning forward in Spanish. And sometimes even when we know we have to move, we don't want to, right? I know that's vague.
Mm.
Even when we know we have to move forward, when we don't want to, even when we're moving forward and still holding back, it was about that. And it obviously involves another person. And it's partly an apology for someone that I hurt, but also an apology to myself in knowing that this is what I have to do, and trying to forgive myself in a decision that I knew was best for the both of us.
Mm. I love you as a promise. Is that what you said? Is that how you opened it?
Yeah.
I like that. You have good lines. You're a very quotable person.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. How often do you write? What's your writing like?
Oh, don't ask me that. Not often enough. Yeah, I was just thinking to myself today when I was deciding which poems to read. I don't think I've ever been as honest with myself in my own head or out loud as I am in my writing. And that's something that I'm working on, trying to be as honest and naked with myself in my own head and with my own words as I am when I write them down. So more often I need to write, but it's generally just when I feel something strong.
That's amazing. Well, when you said not enough, you're always enough, my friend. You'll write exactly as you need to.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with the good folks listening?
Not yet.
Not yet. I love that plug because, as y'all know, next Sunday, which will be the 19th in 2 days, Kezia will be our feature for the live and online expression session, which takes place at noon Pacific Standard Time, 3 p.m. if you're on the East Coast, 2 p.m. if you're in the Midwest, 8 p.m. if you are in London. So we'd love to have you come join us, and you can hear more poems, more conversations. It's going to be awesome. If you're listening to this after the 19th and saying, darn it, I missed it. Well, you can check out all the replays if you join Art Makes Impact for free. You can find it at tommerl.com/courses. We have had such a good time. It's been such a joy getting to learn from you and talk with you and continue to get to know each other. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, of course. What would you like to share in signing off?
I would say trust children.
Whew. I agree with that one. What's the phrase, from the mouths of babes or something like that?
Yes, from the mouths of babes. Yep.
I agree. Well, it's been a joy. All of the show notes can be found at tommerl.com/Kezia, Kezia. Where can folks get in contact with you?
You can email me. That's Kezia Gilyard at gmail.com.
Can you break that down for people?
Kezia Gilyard at gmail.com.
Okay. And that's also in the show notes. What about social? Do you like folks following you on social? Is that more private?
That's more private.
You got to get elevated to friend status. So email and have a conversation. And
I'll see if you're worthy.
Exactly. Well, folks, we appreciate you tuning in. We hope you join us at the live and online expression session, or that you check out the replay. As always, we're wishing you peace and blessings.